So, what can a book written over a century ago, right in the middle of a world war, actually teach us about strategy, about character, and maybe even about the path to success? Well, the answer, as we're about to see, is pretty profound. I mean, just imagine reading that in 1918. The entire world is in flames, and this author opens his book not just talking about a simple game, but connecting it directly to the most urgent, most deadly reality of the time, the strategy of war itself. And this incredible insight? It comes from the preface to Edward Lasker's classic guide, Chess and Checkers. He wasn't just writing a rule book here. He was basically writing a manual for a whole new way of thinking.
To really get his point, we have to see the game through his eyes. For Lasker, the chessboard wasn't just a board at all, it was a battlefield.
And he immediately reinforces this connection by name-dropping some of history's most brilliant military commanders. We're talking about Frederick the Great, Napoleon, Moltke the Elder. These guys weren't just casual players. Lasker argues they owed more than a few inspirations to the game. And for him, the analogy was incredibly literal. You've got two armies opposing each other, and the pieces act as distinct military units. Pawns, that's your infantry. Knights are the swift cavalry, and rooks serve as the heavy artillery. Success, in the end, rests solely on the skill of the commander-in-chief, and that's you.
But here's the thing, Lasker's real genius wasn't just in making this connection. It was in how he taught people to think like a general, not just memorize a bunch of tactics.
You see, Lasker looked at other chess books and thought they were fundamentally flawed. In his own words, they were asking students to memorize a maze of variations without ever teaching them the reason behind the moves. It's that classic trap, right? Knowing the what without ever really understanding the why. So Lasker's approach was honestly revolutionary for the time. He argued that you don't need to memorize anything beyond the basic rules. If you can just grasp the personality of each piece, its core purpose, its strategic function, its character. Let's look at an example to see this in action. Take the rook. It doesn't just move in straight lines. For Lasker, it's this force of overwhelming power, a chariot that commands the open highways of the board. It's not about the move, it's about its role, controlling huge amounts of territory. And the knight? That's the cavalry. Its strange L-shaped move isn't just some random rule, it's the source of its power. It's a disruptive, surprising force designed to flank the enemy and create chaos from angles no other piece can manage. You see, it's about function, not just form. Now, this principle-based thinking brings us to what might be the single most powerful metaphor in the entire book: the humble, often sacrificed pawn. On its face, the pawn is, well, it's insignificant. It's the weakest, most expendable piece on the whole board. But, and this changes absolutely everything, it holds a secret. It carries the potential to become the most powerful piece in the entire game. This transformation is called queening. If a pawn, that little foot soldier, can somehow survive the perilous journey all the way across the battlefield to the opponent's back rank, it gets a promotion, a massive one. This journey is such a perfect metaphor for long-term strategy. It requires steady advancement, incredible resilience to survive, and finally, the transformation of latent potential into overwhelming power. The weak becomes the strongest. Seriously, think about that in your own life, the small, consistent steps that can lead to massive transformations. And this is where Lasker really pulls it all together, moving from the 64 squares of the board to the infinite possibilities of life itself. Remember, he wrote this in 1918, a time when he was observing this huge shift to a world where mental work was becoming paramount. He saw chess as essential training for this new reality, for the everyday struggle. For Lasker, the game was never, ever just a game. It was a gymnasium for the mind and, a crucible for building character. The lessons learned in silence over that board were lessons for a lifetime. And just look at how practical these traits are. Foresight, to think several steps ahead. Logical thinking, to actually understand cause and effect. Circumspection, to see the whole board, the whole situation. Patience, to wait for just the right moment. And maybe most importantly, resilience, the ability, as he puts it, not to be discouraged by reverses. And that leaves us with a final thought. Lasker reminds us that on the chessboard, unlike in life, there is no luck, no element of chance. Success depends solely on your ingenuity and your skill. So, in a world that often feels random and chaotic, maybe the greatest lesson from this old game is the power of our own deliberate choices, our own foresight, and our own unwavering strategy.